Swedish Nobel Prize winner Dag Hammarskjöld was convinced that whoever is born in Scandinavia has won first prize in the lottery of life. The wild world of Scandinavia fascinates nature lovers. At its heart, magical beings roam the landscape. In the south, grey seals sun themselves on the Baltic coast. In the north and west, huge mountain ranges with deep fjords are among the great wonders of nature. This is a region full of treasures and pristine landscapes. Here, conservationists and researchers work with great enthusiasm to ensure that they remain Scandinavia's hidden paradises. The name Scandinavia comes from Old Norse and means dangerous peninsula, a reference probably to sea currents in the south. Just which countries make up Scandinavia is not clearly defined, but it definitely consists of Norway, Sweden, and as a rule, Denmark. The Scandinavian peninsula is comprised of Norway, Sweden, and the extreme northwest of Finland. The Scandies, or Scandinavian mountains, form a natural border between the three countries. Located in the north of Sweden is the village of Nikkaluokta. Nikkaluokta consists of just a few scattered wooden houses in Swedish Lapland. Established by Sami reindeer breeder Niels Olsen Sari, the settlement is regarded as the gateway to Sweden's highest mountain, the Get.nature. This vast landscape is virtually uninhabited. In winter, the temperature can drop to -40 degrees. One creature that feels very much at home here is the elk, also known as moose in many other countries. With between 300,000 and 400,000 of these large deer, Sweden has a denser elk population than any other country. Indeed, the elk is the national animal of Sweden. The size of the elk population calls for sustainable management and a detailed knowledge of these majestic animals. And that is their field. Here in the northernmost area of research, Wiebke Neumann from Germany and Frederik Steenbakker are studying the elk's migration behavior. For Wiebke, it's a dream job. Wiebke and her Swedish colleague are searching for fresh feeding traces. To find elk in this huge area, the researchers have to use a helicopter. Today they aim to tranquilize individual animals and fit them with a GPS collar. Animals that are already registered will be given a new collar. The research project has been running for 10 years now, and the two biologists work well together.
Frederick is a good shot with lots of experience. He has already tranquilized lots of elk. He fires from the helicopter, leaning out when he's just a few meters above an animal. Frederick and the pilot work really well together, so I'm confident that everything will be successful.
First of all, the team will fly west. The two experts know the elk's habits and where they need to search for them. In winter, the elk's diet consists mainly of birch and willow branches, which they find in the valleys. Frederick loads his tranquilizer gun. He can dart an animal from the air. He only fires when the distance and angle are just right. The cow elk is an old acquaintance. She's already wearing a GPS collar, but it needs to be replaced to ensure that it will continue to transmit reliable location data. Fredrik measures the cow.
We'll start with the hoof, 14. Front hoof width, 42.
A vet monitors the animal's vital functions throughout the examination. He also takes a tissue sample. Fredrik never ceases to be impressed by these majestic animals.
People think that these animals act solely according to their instincts. But what fascinates me is that they are all individuals, each with its own special character. Another general assumption is that they all migrate in the same direction. But you will always find some elk doing their own thing. And when we work with them, some stay really calm, while others are stressed out. And some just won't shut up.
After about 15 minutes, the vet injects an antidote to bring the female round. Elk can suffer from heat stress even at a temperature of 14 degrees plus, so tagging is always done in winter. From now on, the GPS data transmitted at regular intervals will once again enable the researchers to monitor this cow elk's every movement. Because in contrast to their more residential relatives in southern Sweden, elk here in the mountains of the north like to migrate. In winter, however, in the region around Nikkaluokta, elk only migrate short distances, or they stay in the valleys. With the onset of spring, the elk start to migrate to higher pastures. In doing so, they cover distances of up to 70 kilometers. This behavior is probably linked to the availability of food. In spring and in summer, elk like to eat herbs and leaves, which only appear later in the colder regions higher up. The scientists have darted another elk. A cloth is placed over its eyes to protect the animal from light and anything else that might disturb it. This cow elk is being tagged for the first time. Within the framework of their research, Fredrik and Vibke are also interested in the impact of climate change. How is the biggest living species of deer reacting to warmer temperatures?
Elk can retain heat extremely well. In fact, it gives off hardly any body heat. It is so well insulated that it can tolerate very cold temperatures without any problem. On the other hand, as soon as temperatures rise a little, the elk gets too hot. It then has to search for cooler habitats. But they aren't necessarily a good source of food.
Elk in the far north are still doing fine. Sweden now has 3 times as many elk as it had 50 years ago. Each year, around 80,000 elk can be shot. Hunting regulations in Sweden are strict. An adult elk eats up to 10 kilograms of food every day. The forestry industry complains that the damage this causes runs into millions. And yet, Sweden's most famous hoofed animal fascinates people time and again. Especially when it appears as magically as this elk in southern Sweden. Most white elk live in the forest of Värmland, some 1,200 kilometers south of Nikkaluokta. These elk are not albino. Through genetic mutation, the pigmentation of their skin and coat has been lost, but not that of their eyes. Hunters often spare these extraordinary elk. That is the only advantage white elk have over their brown relatives. we're back in Nikkaluotka. After her successful mission, Wiebke Neumann checks that the collars are transmitting data.
After an animal has been darted and fitted with a collar, we make sure that it's moving easily. This is extremely important because we bear responsibility for it, and it's not just after tagging it that we check on its well-being. We also monitor the animal at regular intervals throughout the year. We do this by keeping a check on its movements. And in the case of this particular elk, everything looks fine.
The researchers won't return here until next winter. Norway, Sweden, Finland and Denmark have a total population of no more than 27 million, concentrated mainly in the towns and cities. The region was only settled after the last ice age, around 10,000 years ago. The migrants came from two directions and two cultural areas, some from present-day Denmark and Germany. The other wave of migrants came from the northeast. A minority comprised of some 900 Tatars settled in Finland. They came to the region in the early 19th century as Russian soldiers and merchants. In Helsinki in 1925, they established the first Muslim community. Today, an estimated 80,000 Sami live in northern Scandinavia and on the Kora Peninsula, which belongs to Russia. They are regarded as Europe's only indigenous ethnic group. Another ethnic minority are the Kvens. In the 18th and 19th centuries, famine forced these descendants of Finnish immigrants to leave their homeland. Numbering around 10,000, today they live in northern Norway. So who settled where and when? How did migrant peoples down the age survive? What did they live off? Researchers are seeking answers to these and other questions north of Gotland on Gotska Sandön. Shaped by wind and water, this Swedish island is covered almost entirely by forest. Gotska Sandön is regarded as one of the most remote places on Earth. Indeed, for centuries it's said this remoteness was of great value to pirates and seal hunters. Today, sun worshippers like these enjoy the island. Originally established in 1909, this is Sweden's oldest national park. It is also a paradise for 250 different bird species. At this idyllic location, a team of Swedish and German archaeologists and divers headed by Johan Rönnby are on a special expedition. A wooden beam has caught their attention.
Look at these wooden nails, often to get them to be even more tight. You can have a small wedge in the middle where you have to bang into to make them spread out. It's a floor timber as a frame in the bottom of the ships.
In the lower deck.
Yeah. And they're quite heavy on it.
Johan and Robert hope that the drone will provide an overall view and locate more pieces of wreckage on the beach or in the water.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Alone out there.
Exactly.
Dark shapes are always promising.
It's probably 8 meters in length.
Oh, yeah. And that's a good...
That's possible?
Part of the ship is very possible. Or a big container.
In such cases, Johan Rönnby literally likes to get to the bottom of things. His experience of shipwrecks in the Baltic is virtually unparalleled. Together with research diver Robert Lehmann, the underwater archaeologist is about to make the first dive here. Close to the shore, that isn't easy. What's more, rocks and other traces of civilization are soon covered by seaweed. Johan and Robert are searching for the structure that was so noticeable. but their work is hampered by the swell. The sand that is stirred up has made the water cloudy. Johan sketches and surveys a collection of various rocks. There's now no chance the two will reach their actual goal today.
Terribly difficult conditions because it's very shallow water out there. I mean, we were both kicked around all the time. and it's a lot of rocks and some sandy bottom between the rocks. But so we were moving back and forwards in the waves and surprisingly few artifacts or piece of human activity.
Time and again, ever since the New Stone Age, people have tried their luck on Gotska Sandön, but the island has not smiled kindly on farmers and livestock breeders. Even today, fresh water is scarce. The 19th century lighthouse offers the team a good view of the area. One of them is Sabine Steen. Sabine has very personal links with the island's history.
I have a relative here, Peter Gottberg, from my ancestors, and he worked here in the middle of the 1800s, and he were punished in Visby for the things what he done here on the island. And he took things from the boats, the wrecks, and also that he took people to a house and gave them dinner, and after that he shot them.
From the hideaway at Selöden Point, Sabine can observe grey seals molting. The animals do this once a year. The spots for drying off are hotly contested. The island was already home to grey seals some 6,000 years ago. A skull dating back to the time has been found here.
Oh. You can see where the nose and the eyes were.
Other finds, like an axe from the Stone Age, shears from the Bronze Age, and Viking pearl jewelry bear testimony to human settlement on Gotska Sandön. A 20th century survey map helps the researchers to allocate these finds to certain places on the island. The team also has a leader's scan to refer to because the Swedish government had the island scanned with a laser. Angular and round structures indicate human constructions. Selöden Seal Point seems particularly promising. But to the layman, it just looks like an ordinary sandhill. The team think the earth might contain the remains of settlements and graves. If so, it would prove that a larger group of people lived on the island for a longer period.
The hill we talked about no longer exists.
Johan and Sabine's colleague Nibjörn is taking sample of earth. The material right at the bottom is coal. The tiny remnants indicate that there was once a hearth here. Every find, no matter how small, tells the archaeologists more about life on the island. Sabine has found bone fragments and teeth in the sand.
The teeth are also tell me that this teeth belong to adult seal because there is not deciduous teeth. It's a permanent teeth.
Johan has come across a kind of brick. He knows from historical sources that the area served as a camp for the harbour.
What we're seeing here is late 19th century house for people coming out from Gotland fishing and seal hunting out here. So this is actually part of the stove.
The white spot over here is the area in front, right?
Yeah, that's a white sand there, yes.
Exactly. So Yeah, so now we need to decide, I would say from here to here to here.
Yeah.
And then...
Johan needs pictures of the hill and the little slope. The technique is known as photogrammetry. The drone takes pictures automatically. From the overlapping pictures of the hill, the computer produces a 3D model. The round structure provides concrete proof of the existence of a grave.
This one is on top of a heap. I have never seen anything like that. So it's a peculiar place where they put this graveyard. It almost looks a little bit defensive.
Their first foray on the little island of sand has whetted the team's appetite.
This is an extremely remote place in the middle of the Baltic Sea, but at the same time it's a cross point where people have passed for thousands of years. So it's a paradox really that you are on the most remote place in the Baltic Sea, but at the same time it's a cross point. We are in the middle of the Baltic where everybody have passed. So that's a fascinating aspect which I think will be important in the project in the beginning.
Quite a few exciting stories still lie buried on Gotska Sandön. The wild landscapes of Scandinavia are home to many large predators. And on Spitsbergen, you are likely to encounter one of them. The Norwegian archipelago is the habitat of around 3,000 polar bears. And they're doing fairly well here. The Arctic tundra is home to the musk ox. A herd of these long-haired sheep oxen, to translate their Latin name, were introduced into Norway in the 1950s. Some of the animals migrated to Sweden. This icy world is still full of life. But researchers have found that over the last 50 years, average winter temperatures around the North Pole have risen by several degrees. We can only hope that the killer whales swimming off the Lofoten Islands will be able to hunt herring for a long time to come. There's good news for the Baltic, where the number of seals is gradually increasing. Besides grey seals, the common seal is also found here. Further north, ringed seals are also encountered. One of the rarest species of ringed seal is found only in the waters of the Finnish Lake District. Covering an area of more than 4,000 square kilometers and with more than 15,000 kilometers of shoreline, Lake Saimaa is the biggest in Finland. A labyrinth of waterways and islands close to the border with Russia, this vast lake region is the habitat of a species of seal which is threatened with extinction. The Saimaa ringed seal. When the land rose at the end of the last ice age, the species became isolated in the newly created freshwater lake. Today, there are around 380 ringed seals still living in the Saimaa lakeland region. They are the last of their kind. One man who works tirelessly to protect the precious seals is Ismo Martinen. Ismo's father was active in seal conservation and his son has followed in his footsteps. Saimaa is Ismo's home. He knows the lake better than anyone else. For Ismo Martinen, his work is a matter of the heart.
The Saimaa ringed seal is such a rare animal that every Finn ought to do something for its protection. This uniqueness is the main reason for my work and also what motivates me. On no account must we lose the Saimaa ringed seal.
By the middle of the last century, the Saimaa ringed seal had virtually become extinct, primarily because of extreme hunting. It was only in 1955 that the dwindling population was given official protection, but even so, numbers continued to decline. By the 1980s, only about 120 ringed seals were left. There are many reasons for the decline. The practice of fishing with nets in which the seals become ensnared is still a threat even today. But that's not all.
Basically, the biggest threat to the Saimaa seal is climate change. In winter, the animals are dependent on the protection offered by the blanket of snow. If the earth continues to heat up, soon there won't be enough snow for the seals.
The mother seals normally use the snowdrifts on the shore of the lake to build birth caves for their offspring. Without these snow caves, the baby seals would be totally at the mercy of predators and the cold. Their chances of survival would be virtually non-existent. Every year, conservationists and volunteers mount a unique operation to save the Saimaa ringed seal. They pile up snow at places where the seals are known to give birth. Through a hole in the ice, the females are then able to create birth caves for their young in the man-made snowdrifts. Every year in early May, as soon as the snow and ice have melted, Ismo Martinen sets out to count the number of newborn pups on the southern edge of the lake. He heads for previously marked spots where he thinks birth caves could be located. Even if the snow caves have long since melted, as a rule on the bottom of the lake, there is still evidence of seal birth in the form of placentas or fur remnants. In this way, the seal offspring can be counted without the mother or the young pup being disturbed. It might be cold, but Ismo has no choice. He has to enter the water.
The water has a temperature of no more than 3 or 4 degrees, so you need to be well insulated. This is just a normal Finnish summer.
Diving in the area of the abundant birth caves is part of population monitoring. Every find is important to Ismo, even if it's a dead baby seal.
That's always regrettable. On the other hand, I expected to find a dead baby seal here. The mother has already given birth to 3 dead pups, so I feared that it might happen again. It's a sad day.
It's a setback, but not one that discourages Ismo.
Protecting the seals is a large part of my life. My father started this work back in the 1960s, and I promised him that I would continue it all my life.
And the successes achieved over the last few years are just a reward for Ismo's efforts and commitment. Situated around 100 kilometers further north, in the heart of the Saimaa Lake District, is the Lilansaari National Park. It contains the highest numbers of the rare ringed seal. Here, amongst other things, scientists from the University of Eastern Finland are studying how ringed seals are reared. Miri Koivuniemi and her French colleague Vincent Biard are establishing a scientific basis for protecting this endangered species. For Miri, it's more than just a job. The researchers set up special cameras at sites where the seals like to rest.
We are also using camera traps on the breeding sites for investigate the disturbance, the breeding sites, but now on the molting sites we are doing the photo identification study, so we can estimate how many seals there is in the Lake Saimaa, their survival, movement, and for example the social interactions.
Later, Miri and her colleague evaluate the film material.
It's 94D. There's 340 photos.
In spring, the scientists spent most of their time observing and photographing individual animals. In late May, ringed seals begin to molt. They look for suitable rocks near the shore. The warmth of the sun's rays stimulates the production of vitamin D, which is important if the new coat is to grow well. This gives the researchers their best chance of finding the seals.
There's a lot of people who are living in Lake Saimaa on this area who have never seen a Saimaa ringed seal. It's very rare and it's always very magical to see one, and I'm really happy that I've been able to do this work and see them even 10 seals a day.
One female sun worshipper became really famous. Her sun bath made Kullervo an internet star. A 24-hour webcam transmission of the ringed seal lolling about on a rock took her into the homes of 5.5 million Finns. In 2017, in just over 1 month, the live stream was logged onto more than 2 million times. Since then, cameras have been placed at a number of spots. Back at their quarters, Miri and Vincent are looking at the film material. In addition to the rearing activities of the seals, the two scientists are interested in their coat patterns. Each animal has its own characteristic rings, which thus enables it to be identified. This is another way of monitoring the population.
The last couple of years we had really great years. We have gotten over 80 pups on the whole Lake Saimaa, which are like the best years in a very long time. And this year we already also got like over 60 pups, which is great. So the population is growing.
Yeah, but it's important to remember that they are all not living next year. Like there is quite this high mortality rate. So although there is 80 pups born, maybe, I don't know, like 30% might live.
Even half might die in the first year.
The Saimaa ringed seal has become a symbol of Finland's fascinating lake scenery, one of many natural paradises which need to be preserved. A quarter of the Scandinavian peninsula lies inside the Arctic Circle. Vast mountain ranges extend from the North Cape down to the Skagerrak. Upland plateaus, known as fjords, rise above the tree line. It's in autumn especially that these alpine tundra landscapes unfold their beauty. Parts of the highest mountain range in Scandinavia are located in the Sarek National Park. The Rappa Valley is truly breathtaking. In southern Scandinavia, the chalk cliffs of Møns Klint are the highest on the Danish coast. Norway has more than 1,000 fjords. UNESCO has declared Geiranger Fjord part of the world's natural heritage. Sogne Fjord is also famous. More than 200 kilometers in length, it is the longest estuary in Europe. Fjords are spectacular testimonies to the end of the last ice age. When the glaciers retreated, seawater flowed into the U-shaped valleys. One of them, Hardanger Fjord, southeast of Bergen, is regarded as the most beautiful of all Norway's fjords. Situated above the fjord is the Hallingskarvet upland plateau. The massif belongs to the national park of the same name. One creature which feels at home in this cold, barren world is the Arctic fox. It is perfectly adapted to polar winter temperatures of up to -65 degrees. Once indigenous, the Arctic fox was reintroduced into Norway only a few years ago. That was also due to the efforts of Peter Bratten and Christopher Ulland Hansen. On behalf of the Norwegian Environmental Authority and within the framework of a special protection program, they devote their efforts to preserving the Arctic fox.
First we'll head for Fragavatnet, then for Fragavatnet Newton and Omsprend.
Not via Dalsbrook?
Maybe we'll do Dalsbrook first, go round and descend back there.
Fine.
The two start out on their trip to the foxes from the little town of Finse. The Hallingskarvet National Park extends over an area of 450 square kilometers. The highest point on the plateau is close to 2,000 meters above sea level. In winter, the region is virtually deserted. Every year, Peter Bratten and his colleagues cover around 1,000 kilometers on their snowmobiles. They search for Arctic foxes and provide them with food.
We supply a total of 21 feeding sites in 14 different areas. They are located next to old dens which Arctic foxes have used for thousands of years. We do that to get Arctic foxes to settle in them once again. The species, don't forget, was wiped out here.
Its silky coat proved fatal for the Arctic fox. In the early 20th century, it was hunted mercilessly in Scandinavia. The snow-white fur was seen as a valuable and fashionable accessory, with dramatic consequences for the species. By 1930 or so, there were hardly any Arctic foxes left in Sweden, Norway, and Finland. All the Arctic foxes in the national park stem from a state-financed breeding program in Oppdal in central Norway. The first pups, 42 in all, were released into the wild here in 2010. Until the population has reached a sustainable level, the animals will be dependent on help. In winter through to the end of May, the rangers check the feeding stations once a month. In summer, they make checks every 2 months. To monitor the foxes and for research purposes, each feeding site is equipped with a camera.
At the moment, we feed the Arctic foxes ordinary dog food, which they like. We reckon they enjoy having a fast food restaurant nearby.
Looking for traces of the foxes around the stations is also part of the rangers' work. The men are certain that these traces were left by an Arctic fox. Bite marks also show that a red fox tried to get in. The red fox makes life hard for the Arctic fox. The red genus is much bigger and stronger than its white relative. Not only does the red fox compete with it for prey, it will also attack it. In some regions, the only way to protect the Arctic fox is to cull the red fox population. Peter Bratten and his colleague approached the next feeding site on foot. They think that the nearby den could contain Arctic foxes and don't want to frighten the animals with the loud noise from their snowmobiles. Arctic foxes are normally born between May and early June. A litter consists of up to 9 pups. Peter and Christopher carefully inspect the den from the outside.
Vi så med en gang at det var helt ferske spor inn I hiet.
We have spotted fresh tracks at the entrance to the den, so we're certain the Arctic foxes are inside.
Avføring.
We've also found excrement and the remains of a reindeer they've eaten. When we looked into the entrance, there was a strong smell of fox. So I have high hopes that when we come back in 4 or 5 weeks' time, we'll find a litter of pups. That's good news.
If Petter is right, the litter will need to be caught, which was the aim of this operation in 2015. In order to monitor the development of the Arctic fox population, each newborn pup is tagged with a chip. A DNA sample is also taken. Finally, Petter and his colleague check the sex of each pup. Last year, there were 6 litters in the Finsa area alone, and 58 in Norway as a whole. It was a good year for the Arctic fox. Winter on the upland plateau lasts until well into May, and late September already sees the first snowfalls. The climate here is harsh and inhospitable. Nevertheless, Peter Bratten and Christopher Ulland Hansen can't imagine a better place to work.
This region is simply fantastic, and it is great to work here. The best thing about my job is that I don't have to sit in an office. Instead, I can enjoy this magnificent scenery every day.
I love being in the mountains, in my spare time and through my job. And it's wonderful to have the chance to do something for nature here in Norway. That means a lot to me.
For Christopher, Petter and all the others, their work really is like winning the lottery.